Hi, travelers. So now we are going to be diving into symbiosis and symbiotic relationships. So for those of you who are unaware of what symbiosis is, it is essentially just a close relationship between two species where at least one of the species is being benefited. And the other species in this relationship could either be harmed, nothing could happen to them, or they could also benefit, which is good for both species. And so there are three different forms of symbiotic relationships. So the picture that I have right here is that of a coyote, okay? So coyotes in the desert biome, they have a symbiotic relationship with fleas. Can you guess which one? Okay, maybe not. I'll tell you. So basically, it is parasitism, okay? So this coyote has a symbiotic relationship with fleas of parasitism. So let me explain. So parasitism specifically is when one organism is living off of the host organism. So the result of this symbiotic relationship is that one organism is harmed while the other one is benefited. And the organism that is harmed, the host, they can be at a risk of death, but typically the flea in this scenario would be the one who it needs the host to be alive in order to live off of it. So once the host dies, the parasite might no longer need this organism, right? So that's why sometimes there's a risk of death, but sometimes there isn't. So going back to our coyote. So this coyote, let me move out of the way so you can really see it. So this coyote, you could see that it's itching itself. It's scratching itself. And that is because there are fleas upon this coyote. So let me describe to you the relationship in which these two organisms, these two different species have with one another, resulting in a symbiotic relationship of parasitism. So essentially what's happening is that the flea is harming the coyote in a way that the flea is sucking on the coyote's blood. Okay, it's kind of like, I guess, mosquitoes for us humans, right? Like they suck our blood, and for some people they can get malaria. So this specific coyote, the flea is sucking on this coyote's blood, and as it's sucking on the coyote's blood, there's no benefit for the coyote, and it's actually harming the coyote instead. But the flea does benefit, while the coyote is not benefiting, which results in a symbiotic relationship of parasitism. So because a flea is sucking on the blood of the coyote, the flea is provided with, many nutrients and, it's food in order for it to survive, in order for it to live and thrive. And this coyote, its blood is being drawn out. And who knows, this flea could maybe have different diseases. So the coyote is at a risk of death, but not directly by the relationship itself. Typically, the coyote is just being harmed, but it might not be at a risk of death. So yeah, that's the coyote. Obviously, sucking blood is not good, therefore it is being harmed. So as one organism, the coyote, is being harmed, and the other organism, the flea, is benefiting, this relationship is parasitic. It is of parasitism. Okay, so that is one of the three symbiotic relationships. We are going to move on to the next one. But before I move on, here is a picture of a flea, for those of you who don't know what a flea looks like. Okay, see you on the next one. Okay, welcome back, travelers. So over here, I have two different organisms. We have the cactus wren, as well as not exactly its own species, but we have a cactus, okay? So the cactus wren has a symbiotic relationship with cacti in general. And essentially what happens is that these cactus wrens, so these organisms have a symbiotic relationship of commensalism. Okay, so for those of you who are unaware of commensalism is essentially when one organism is benefiting while the other organism is not being harmed nor benefited. So this specific example of the cactus wren and the cactus, can you guess which one's being harmed and which one's being benefited? Okay, I'll tell you. So basically the cactus wren is what is being benefited while the cactus is not being harmed. It's not being helped. It doesn't really care, like it's not being harmed. So like right? So there's no effect going on to it. So there's a symbiotic relationship between these two of commensalism in the desert biome. And essentially what the cactus wren is doing, what the cactus wren does, is that it builds a nest within the cactus, and the cactus isn't harmed by this, okay? It's not like if you get a paper cut and ow, it hurts, right? The cactus is not harmed if there's a nest being built in it, which sounds crazy, but it's factual. And it has no effect on the cactus either. It doesn't feel anything. So the cactus wren is being benefited because the cactus is providing it a place for it to, put its babies, to raise its children, to have a home. And the cactus could also protect the cactus wren from any predators, right? Because it's spiky, it hurts, right? If any organism touches it. And the cactus, it's not being harmed, right? It's not being harmed and it's not being benefited either. So why should it care, right? It's doing all this for the cactus wren while it's not really gaining anything. It's not anything losing anything. So it's just whatever. Just whatever. And so only one organism benefits the cactus wren while there's no effect on the other, the cactus itself. And this represents a symbiotic relationship in the desert biome of commensalism. Okay, so I'll see you on the last symbiotic relationship of 3, mutualism. Welcome back, travelers. So over here, we have our last of 3 symbiotic relationships, mutualism. So mutualism is basically when both organisms of different species, they're working together and they're both benefiting from the relationship that they have with one another. So there's a symbiotic relationship of mutualism between a cactus and a goby woodpecker within the desert biome. So this is that the goby woodpecker, this organism over here, eats insects and parasites that could in the future might harm the cactus, right? And in this way, there's mutualism showing because the goby woodpecker is benefiting by a food source of the insects and the parasites, right? Because they're eating them, and the cactus gets protection. Okay, it's being groomed, it's being protected from organisms that in the future could harm it. So this goby woodpecker is helping the cactus, and the cactus is also helping the goby woodpecker. So this is shown as a symbiotic relationship of mutualism. So those are the 3 symbiotic relationships. Just to go over them again, there's parasitism. One organism benefits, one organism is harmed. Commensalism, one organism is benefited, one organism doesn't really like there's no actual effect on that one. And there's mutualism, where both organisms of 2 different species are benefited. So just remember that symbiosis is essentially a close relationship in which at least one species is benefiting, and the other species could either be harmed, helped, or nothing happened to them. So, okay, so that is the symbiosis section. Keep clicking if you want to learn more. Thank you.